Hello, my name is Alex, and today I'm going to walk you through how to use Plickers, one of my very favorite educational technology tools, in your classroom. I got to the Plickers website by entering plickers.com, and that rerouted me to this Get Plickers site. So the first thing you're going to do is sign up if you have not done that before. This big green button. If you do have an account like I do, I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. Okay, and that is going to bring you to this main site. The nice thing about Plickers is that there's a lot of different ways to get to one specific thing, but it also does make it a little busy. So I'm going to walk you through how to use their site. So the first thing you notice is here's my library. I already have some questions written, but when you first get here, this part's going to be blank. To write your questions, they call them cards, you're going to select the button that says New Set. There's two locations. There's one on the upper left-hand side, and there's also one on your library page. So they both bring you to the exact same place. I'm going to go ahead and click the New Set button. Okay, and this is where you can write your questions. Up at the top, the Untitled Set, this is the name of your folder. So whatever topic you're covering, you can enter that here. And then you can go ahead and enter your question. Down at the bottom, you have up to 4 multiple choice answers. You cannot have more than 4, but you can have fewer than 4. So to take answers away, you just select the X button on the side of the answer, and that will take one away. Down at the bottom, it says set as true or false. That's going to go ahead and take 2 of your options away, so you only have 2 left. And just autofill the true or false. You can always add your questions back at the top where it says add choice and get your 4 answers back that way. All right, I went ahead and just filled in some answers here. If you notice on the left-hand side, this answer turned green. That's because I selected it as the correct answer. To change that, you just click on any of the other letters and you can mark that one as correct. Your students will not see the selected answer, but it helps because it's going to autofill a gradebook for you to save you time so you don't have to manually go back and grade all of these. So by selecting the correct answer, it saves you the time from grading them later on. This option at the bottom that says shuffle choices, that's just going to mix the multiple choice answers around. You can see, but it continues to identify the correct answer. So this is a great option if you're worried about students sharing the answers to these, if you're assessing them and you're worried about students potentially cheating on these. So that is an option. Up at the top, this button on the right-hand side that says Print Handout is going to give you a nicely formatted paper that you can print off. Plickers is a great way that you can even just make multiple choice questions that you want to test the students on using just paper and pencil. It's a lot quicker than using Word, so this is a great option. It's also nice if you have students that are out for some reason, they're absent, but you want them to be able to have a copy of these questions that you asked in class so they can be able to learn and study from them. Okay, so coming back to my main page here. When you have finished writing all of your questions and you're ready to quiz your students, you're going to select the Add to Queue button. Okay, and then that way it's going to send it to your cell phone. So I'll show you that view in just a moment, but when you're ready to answer all the questions, you'll select Add to Queue. If you're not quite done and you want to ask more questions, you're just going to come over to this plus button. And that's going to add another question to this folder that you have. So this is adding another question onto my sample question folder. All right, to get back to that main page, I'm going to click the Home button on the left-hand side. And then the question that I just made is going to show up in my library. So here's my sample question. I just made this folder, and there are 2 questions in that folder. If I want to make another folder, I just select the New Set button that we had just selected to make this original folder. Okay, so now that we have our questions, we need to create our class. So to do that, I've already created a demo class, but the first time you're going to select the New Class button. And that brings the screen up. So you can have up to 8 classes. You do need to have each class specifically labeled. So if you have 5 sections of chemistry, you do need to add 5 separate class names and distinguish those. So I'm just going to call this Demo Class 2. And then after you create your class, you're able to enter your students in. So to do that, you select the Add Students button. You can either enter all of your students' names in. I just copied from an Excel sheet and I'm able to paste that in. So that will save you time. You do want to enter your student's name that they feel comfortable with. So if there's the name that they go by in your class is different than the name in the gradebook, you might want to adjust this because the students will see their name displayed on the board. All right. So my class has been entered. Here's my demo class 2. Okay, so at this point, I'm ready to start asking my students these questions. So I need to make sure that I have my items queued. So I'm going to go to my library. Okay, these are the questions that we just created, but I'm going to go ahead and queue the questions that I made earlier on the scientific method. So this is my scientific method folder. I have 4 questions in it and I want to ask my students all 4. So I'm going to add it to queue. This adds the entire folder. And then I have the option to add it to multiple classes. So I'm going to go ahead and select my demo class. This is a class that I've created earlier. As you can see, I have already asked this for this demo class, and here is the score that they received. So that's what the reports means on the right hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to my demo class. And right up here, when it turns green, this means it is queued and ready to go. This little play button is what you can click when you're ready to ask these questions in your classroom. So essentially what queuing means is that you have this library in the Plickers website and you can have a lot of questions. But that would get really busy on your phone when you're actually trying to ask your students these questions. So queuing essentially sends that list of questions to your cell phone. So you're not sorting through hundreds of questions every day you're asking these to your students. So if you go to your cell phone and you can't find any questions on there to ask, that means that you just forgot to add it to the queue. So that's really the only issue I've ever had with Plickers. I go to use it and it's not there, but that was my fault because I forgot to click the Add to Queue button. So it's really quick just to hop on your computer, click the Add to Queue button, and you can go from there. The only other issue I've had with Plickers is I came into my classroom, I'm ready to use it, but I forgot to update my app. But other than those 2 things, I've never had a problem using Plickers, and both of those are able to be solved within a few minutes. So very quickly, and the students don't even know there's something wrong. Okay, so this is a double screen view now. Okay, the right-hand side is my cell phone. I just opened my Plickers app. So this way you can see what your computer screen looks like and what your corresponding mobile cell phone screen should look like. So there are 2 different ways that you can start asking these questions, and there is a way that I prefer. If you select this play button, this is on your computer. So if you select the play button, it's going to automatically start asking these questions. Okay, so this is on my cell phone. I can see the question that I'm asking. The way that I prefer to do it, let me go back, is to use this Now Playing button. So I click that on my computer screen, and that gives me this blank screen that is projected for my students. So usually I pull up this screen on my desktop computer in my classroom. I go ahead and project this. And that way I'm able to get myself situated, I'm able to get my students situated, they're able to have their QR cards out, and I'm able to ask the question from my cell phone from the front of the classroom. I usually do use these for assessments, so that way I can monitor my students and make sure they're all ready to go and they're all focused and paying attention. So there are two different ways to do it. If you push the play on your desktop computer, it's going to go ahead and start asking the questions, or you can just click that Now Playing button on your desktop on the top left-hand side. Let me go back so you can see it one more time. This Now Playing, this is on my home screen, and that basically brings me to this blank screen that I can project. So if I do it this way, my cell phone is kind of in charge of what's going on here. Here are my classes. So since I queued the questions to my demo class, I'm going to go ahead and select on my cell phone Demo Class, and that brings my questions up. So when I'm ready to ask my questions, I'm just going to click the question on my cell phone. You can go ahead and scroll through the questions that you have in your queue. I'm going to go ahead and just ask that first one. And once I click it on my cell phone, it's going to automatically project for my students. Okay, so this is what your students see. Here are all of their names. So as they answer the questions, they're going to turn blue. So my students always know that if their name has not changed color, they need to continue holding their QR codes up for me to scan them. And I will show you how that works. So on my cell phone view, I can see the correct answer because I already selected that. And I can also monitor which ones of my students are answering it correctly and who might need some help on that assignment. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. I just have a paper copy of the question that I'm going to scan here. When I'm ready, I'm going to select this button on my cell phone, and that's going to bring up my camera view. Okay, so I brought up my camera on my cell phone. I'm going to go ahead and scan it. It'll take it for me. I don't think it likes it. Try that one. There we go. All right, so you see when it's lined up, you can see Isaac answered that one. And I believe he got it wrong, showing up red for me. And then I'll go ahead and scan this one. You can see I'm holding the C up top. That is indicating that C is the answer that I'm trying to select. There we go. So Marie's name just flashed. Let me see if I can get to flash again. Her name flashed green, which meant she got it correct. So your students do need to change the orientation depending on what the answer is that they're trying to select. So that is C. They'll rotate it if they want to select D. And that number 2, is corresponding with a specific student that has this QR code. Okay, so then I can go back. On my cell phone, I only had 2 of my students answer, Isaac and Marie. You can see the rest of my students did not turn blue. And I can see, my students don't see this, but I can see that one of my students got the wrong answer. They chose observation while one of them chose the correct answer. And if I go ahead and click on those answers, I can see who got them wrong or right. That way I can help the students if they need additional help, but I don't have to worry about my students seeing who got the answer correct and who got the answer wrong. I can also select the Show Correct button on my cell phone or the Reveal Answer button on my computer, and that will show my students what the correct answer is. When I'm ready to ask my next question, I just need to come to my cell phone and select the arrow button, and that will move on to the next question. I'm back to just my computer view, and I'm going to show you some of the scoring features that Plickers has. So I'm going to go back, just X out of this screen, and I'm back to the home screen. So just a side note, it did take me a while just then to scan the QR codes, but in your classroom it actually goes really quickly. I'm not sure if you could tell, but my printer didn't print those out very well, so it was a little hard for the scanner to read it. That's typically not an issue. I'm going to select this reports option on the left-hand side, and this gives me the report of the different tests that I have done. So this is the quiz that I just did right here, and I can see that the students received a 50%, and that's my class score, and I'm able to get a good class assessment as a whole by looking at the reports option. So while reports gives you a good big picture idea of how your class is doing on a specific topic, the score sheet option on the left-hand side gives you individual student reports. So I'm going to go ahead and select the class that I just did the quiz for, my demo class. And here is a report of the quiz that I just gave. Okay, so I can see that Marie got the question correct. This C is the correct answer, while Isaac did not get the question correct, and he chose A as his incorrect answer. I'm able to select this little paper icon, and that will give me a report for that individual student. So this is a really good option if you have a student who's struggling with a particular topic and you want to go ahead and print off the quiz so they can review it. So you can see he got number 1 incorrect. The correct answer was control. That's the one that's showing up in the green, but he selected A. You can see that little dot next to A indicates that that is the incorrect answer that Isaac selected. As you can see up here at the top, you're able to sort your reports by the day, week, and month. These options are blacked out for me. I do not have the pro version. I'm only using the free version. So once you're over your month, you might start losing those reports. So just make sure that you're able to enter those in your gradebook fairly quickly if you are grading those, so you don't end up losing those, or you can get the pro version. But one more thing I want to show you, typically when you sign in the very first time, it will direct you to go ahead and get your QR codes. Since I did not sign in, let me show you where to get to those from your home screen. So I'm going to go back to my home. And it's in kind of a weird place. You need to select the Help button on the far right-hand side and go down to the Get Plickers cards. And that will bring you to the Plicker card page. So you have lots of options. You can pay for them, or if you just want to print them yourself and laminate them in your classroom, you can choose these print for free options at the top. So you have lots of options. I typically just use the standard. I have fewer than 40 students in my class, so I'm able to use that one, and it does save paper. There's 2 cards per sheet. So this one kind of was the most cost-effective option for me, just in terms of printing paper and ink. 2 final tips for you. You do need to have 1 set of card per class section. Okay, so in my class, I used Plickers in, say, 5 sections of chemistry. I will need to print off 5 copies of these standard Plickers sets. You don't need to print off all of those cards if you have fewer than 40. So if I have 20, I will print off 5 copies of those first 10 pages of Plickers. And the last thing is make sure that you do not print those front and back. So I'm all for saving paper, but you do need to give each card to each student. Okay, so you can't have card number 1 to have card number 3 on the back, or that's gonna mess up your numbering. Okay, so I will pull up that standard set. Here are the QR codes. Here is card number 1. So this is gonna be assigned to student number 1, and I'll show you where to find that. Here is student number 2. Okay, and then on each of these sides you can see again your multiple choice answers. So that's what you're going to hold at the very top. So right now this student, if they're holding it like this, would be selecting answer B. And student number 2 would be selecting answer number D. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this Plickers page. Okay, I'm going to go back to my home screen by exiting out of this help page. And I am back to my library. So I'm going to go ahead and select my class. This is the class we did the quiz on, so I'm just going to select the demo class. And to select my roster, I'm going to go to this little graduation cap here. Go to students. This is just your report button. So I'm going to go to students. And here's a list of my students, and here are their corresponding card numbers. So I'm going to give card number 1 to Isaac, and card number 2 to Marie. So that is all I have for you. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can go to www.yourclassroomhelper.com to see how I use Plickers in my classroom. But thank you so much for watching.